There are few franchises in the gaming world that attack my wallet faster than The Legend of Zelda. Constant full-price remasters, content gated behind Amiibo, huge quality of life features gated behind Amiibo, increased priced Amiibo, and the worst part of all, I am part of the problem. I have bought the same Zelda game so many times, it's embarrassing. Awakening, Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword, I can't stop. Problem doesn't stop there either. Like, look at this. It's so cute. I can't help myself. I need help. Even though I'm obviously having fun with all these purchases, I've decided it might also be fun to turn the tables and get some revenge on Link. We're gonna relive his biggest wallet wasters, the sourest scams, and the biggest rupee ripoffs in the main series Legend of Zelda games. Let's talk about it. Today's video is sponsored by our longest running partner, the returning legend, ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN is the top-rated virtual private network provider. Running an unencrypted internet connection is just like jumping into this pit. It might seem harmless and full of great stuff, but you can end up exposed to a ton of threats. Hackers can steal your information, governments and corporations can surveil you, and your own internet service provider might legally be collecting and selling your personal information. With the shield of ExpressVPN, you can keep your internet usage safe by encrypting 100% of your network and masking your IP address with just the click of a button. And with servers in 94 different countries, there's an endless supply of masks to choose from, allowing you to browse the internet from anywhere in the world. Plus, jumping to a new country means that you can expand your streaming content without needing a bunch of different streaming services. This past weekend, I decided to binge BBC's Sherlock. It's great, and it was on Netflix for years, but in May 2021, their streaming contract expired. In the US. With an ExpressVPN location change to Hong Kong though, boom, I'm right back in my mind palace. I've used ExpressVPN for years, and it's still just as simple as ever. Just one click, and you're protected. Now, today's video is about bad rupee value, but if you want to save a couple rupees on ExpressVPN today, go to expressvpn.com/thejwits to find out how you can get 3 extra months of ExpressVPN free. And on to today's video, let's waste some money. I looked at things like the number of rupees wasted, the maximum wallet size of each game, and how useless each reward was. But ultimately, one metric mattered more than the rest, and for me, that was just how bad each of these purchases and scams felt when they happened to me in-game. Instead of a traditional top 10, I've decided to make a Triforce-shaped tier list that is both a TIER and also a TEAR list. Here are my 5 tiers of escalating agony, featuring 15 of my favorite fiascos. Starting with Tier 5. And what better place to begin than the OG Legend of Zelda and an OG ripoff format? Overpayment. Shops are all over the world in old school Hyrule, and it's very clear from the get-go that not everyone is there to offer you the best deal. You can buy that nice shiny new magic shield for 160 rupees, only to potentially learn that there's a shop variant that spits these things out for 90. 70 rupees might not seem like that big of a waste, but in a game where your cap is only 255, that's a low-tier ripoff for sure. And while we're on the NES, I'm also giving an entry to the Old Woman. She asks for money in exchange for advice, and you got 3 options. Now, if you're a normal person, you'd assume that the bigger the donation, the clearer the hint or advice that you get. But in the cruel world of 1986, here's what the big 50 rupee tip gets ya. Boy, you're rich. And that's it. There's no bonus effect. That's all. It's just a fifth of your wallet, but that is one of the truest and trolliest ways to throw your rupees right down the toilet. And on the subject of surprise losses, I'm also giving a shout out to the Rupee here. It defies all laws of logic as we know it. If you touch this physical object, it causes money from your wallet to straight up evaporate. How does that even work? And while this nonsensical trap does appear the most in Phantom Hourglass, I'm gonna leave it to Skyward Sword's Link to fully describe how we feel about this thing.
Look how they massacred my boy.
And now hopping to the newest Zelda game with Breath of the Wild, we've got another low-tier shop swindler. With a wallet max of almost 1 million rupees, cash doesn't quite mean as much in this version of Zelda, but I still had to include just this one for the sheer audacity. The Yiga Clan Banana Man. These mysterious travelers offer 99 bananas at 99 rupees a pop. Good for a 10,000 rupee splurge if you claim the lot. 3 problems though. 1. You can buy bananas for just 20 rupees from Emery. And actually, 2. Bananas are as easy to get for free in this game as they are in Donkey Kong Country. They're on the floor, they're on trees, they're on corpses. And 3. After sealing the deal, your seller tries to kill you. Their corpse does have more bananas, but you definitely aren't getting your 10,000 back. And my final tier 5 small scale scam comes from the 3DS's A Link Between Worlds with Ravio's Rentals. Ravio's a rupee lover, and his big new gimmick in this game is the rental system, which allows you to temporarily snag any item for a big reduced cost. The catch? The second you die, his trusty crow friend will be sure to snag the items off of your corpse. Now, they force you to use this system when the game just starts, but the moment they let me buy items outright, I never touched it again. It's not like I was dying that often, but the whole system just feels like a waste. I want to own my items. This game showers you in rupees, so it isn't hard to buy the gear outright. Plus, rented gear can't be upgraded by the Maya-Mais, which was like my favorite thing to do in the whole game. Hyrule Blockbuster? That's a bust. And with that, it's time to level up to tier 4, where 4 increasingly offensive ripoffs are waiting for us. Kicking things off, we've got Wind Waker's Treasure Chart number 18. This is an auction prize, which means that you have to engage in an actual bidding war to receive it, instead of the Piece of Heart, or maybe the HD version's Swift Sale. You know, the stuff you were actually looking for. And what do you get after duking it out in a spend fest with the social elite? After sailing the high seas and tracking the chart down to collect its prize? Just 1 green! It's so insulting that they patched it out of Wind Waker HD and did turn it into a 50 cost purple. And this is the start of a trend that we'll get back to throughout the day, but in my mind, if they decided to fix it in a remake, then you know it's bad. Next up on tier 4 is a whole subsection that I want to dedicate to Ocarina of Time bottle items. Bottles hold all kinds of great stuff that you can scoop up for free, so why on earth would I ever buy any of this stuff with my hard-earned cash? 50 for a fairy? I can get like 10 any moment from the fountain right next to a warp point. 200 for a fish? Are they serious? That's like the full adult's wallet. You need a fish for like 1 thing in this game, and it's right next to the place where you get fish. And 300 for blue fire? You would need the final upgrade to even buy this, and even then, why on earth are you not just scooping it for free at the all-you-can-scoop buffet? This is the individual Zelda game I have played the most hours of in my life, and never once have I ever considered any of these. And continuing the trend of things I never want to buy from a shopkeeper comes to one of the newest Zelda remakes, Link's Awakening. One of the big new features they added to this game was the build-your-own chamber dungeon. Unfortunately, I found it to be kinda lackluster as both a puzzle minigame and a creative mode, especially since you can only run through rooms that you've already run into in the main game. I say all this because if the feature already didn't feel worth doing, then why on earth would I buy 7 rooms for 1,280 rupees each? How'd they come up with that number? Buying them all is over 9. Actually, it's slightly under 9,000. Still though, this is highway robbery. And speaking of robbery, one of the only things keeping this entry a little lower on the list was the fact that you can always use the 5-finger discount and scoop those stones for free. But even then, you will have to die over and over and over again to get every stone. Everyone's gonna call you a thief in game, and you'll miss out on the no-death secret ending. There's just no winning here. And a final big ticket item that I never buy comes from the game that you're all probably playing right now, Skyward Sword. Beetle is becoming Zelda's most popular form of reincarnating grifter, showing up to sell you junk in 6 different main series Zelda games. My pick for the worst Skyward scam comes to the Bug Medal, sold in this game for a whopping price of 1,000 rupees. So, what do you get for all that dough? The bare minimum! It tells you on your minimap where bugs spawn. Not what kind of bugs, or if they are actually available to collect right now, just a generic, hey, there might be some bugs here. It's a 1,000 rupee tool that's instantly beaten by a generic look at any fan-made Zelda map. And to top it all off, this isn't like other Zelda games where you just get passive unlocks. This dud of a disc takes up one of your valuable and limited adventure pouch spaces. This game doesn't even have a big bug-collecting Agatha-style quest either. They're just ground down into optional potion buffs. I wish I could say that Beetle would bug off for the rest of today, but this is not the last you've seen of him. For now, it's time to escalate to Tier 3. Now we're really starting to approach some of the top tier ripoffs, and I'm kicking this off with a controversial but undoubtedly infamous quest. Wind Waker Tingle. You first meet the rupee-obsessed ferryman in Wind Waker's prison for theft. And I can't think of a better introduction. In one of the game's final arduous tasks, you gotta track down 8 pieces of the Triforce. This means that you need to pay 201 rupees for the Incredible chart, which helps you hunt down 8 Triforce charts, which you then take to Tingle to decipher for 398 rupees each, and then find the pieces of the Triforce. Not only is that a ton of cash in Wind Waker, but it just feels so arbitrary. Like, why couldn't I have just gotten readable charts in the first place? Why has Tingle gone from weird but completely reasonable map salesman to slave-driving rupee fiend? So I do feel a little weird including something where the Triforce is your final reward. That's just about as good as you can get in Zelda. But the way that this mandatory story quest just brick walls you with a huge paywall felt brutal. Once again, it says a lot that this was reworked significantly in the remake, eliminating 5 of the charts, cutting the costs by nearly 2,000 rupees. Even Nintendo was like, yeah, this is a pretty big ripoff. In a fitting twist, Tingle would end up paying for his crimes. He spends an entire side game being deceived into wasting his money in the surface of a giant sentient rupee. So, And you know what's potentially harder than paying to collect all the pieces of the Triforce? Paying to collect every hero in a gacha game. There are 130 figurines to collect in Minish Cap, and 136 if you're in the post-game. They are mandatory to get if you want to 100% the game's heart pieces, and even though they're adorable, they are an absolute pain. Now, technically, these figures cost seashells to roll for and not rupees, but eventually, one way or another, it's gonna cost rupees. Theoretically, figures have an even distribution, meaning that in the beginning, you'll see new stuff all the time, get toward the end of the track, and you'll start getting repeats. Again, and again, and again. You can skew the probability in your favor for a new figure 1% at a time with seashells. And at first that seems reasonable, but when you see how slowly you get seashells, it becomes an unbelievable slog. Where for that last 1/3 of the stack or so, it can demand thousands of seashells or several hours of your time. Even in speedruns, where they have learned to manipulate the RNG for every pull, it's still a 40-minute process to get them all. So, how do you get more shells? Well, they are hidden here or there, find them in a treasure chest, but once you've run out of those, you can buy them 30 for 200 rupees straight up. Or if you want to speed that process up a little more, you can take a trip to, well, Beetle is back with an all-new grift in the form of Picolites. 200 rupees to temporarily increase your rate of finding more shells, or 200 rupees to temporarily increase your rate of finding more rupees. One way or another, if you aren't going through the very complicated process of RNG manipulation, you are going to pay for that last heart piece. And my final stop for Tier 3 is the complimentary card. Of course, that means one last trip to Beetle. Now, this isn't technically an item that you purchase straight up, but it takes a lot of money, and it just might be the most useless individual item in the entire series. Now, some of you might be thinking of the very similarly named Complimentary ID, which you get in exchange for making 30 purchases with Beetle in Wind Waker. Insultingly, spending all that money gives you a one-time coupon that gives you a compliment from Beetle. The least you could do after all that I spent. But no, I'm not talking about that one. I'm talking about the complimentary card from Phantom Hourglass, which you receive for getting 100 membership points from his shop. Now, depending on whether or not you're buying items during his special points days, that's going to be between 2,000 and 10,000 rupees just to get the card. As laughable as the Wind Waker card was, this one is the opposite, which is so much worse. Instead of using the card for a compliment from Beetle to Link, you use the card and are forced to give a compliment from Link to Beetle via the Nintendo DS microphone. What is this? Hey, you Pikachu? I have to say thanks? Thanks for nothing! Shifting up to the second to last tier, we have tier 2, with a duo of indisputably bad deals. My first pick is the Thieves' Town Golden Bee. In A Link Between Worlds, the Golden Bee is a somewhat rare capturable insect that fights for you, and it's somewhat stronger than a regular bee.
You like jazz?
You can use it to unlock the bee badge, which makes bees leave you alone and deal more damage. It's not needed, but you know, it's neat. But if you don't want to deal with the RNG of getting that Goldie to spawn, then you gotta go to this old man and buy one for 888 rupees. And no, that's not the ripoff. The real ripoff is actually waiting for you here in Thieves' Town. There, you can scoop up a golden bee for 9,999 rupees. Your absolute wallet maximum. 1 rupee short of 10 grand for what? A shiny bee that you can get for 8,000 rupees less? Or, you know, for free? Thieves' Town truly lives up to the name. And our other dishonorable finalist goes to none other than the Ocarina of Time Giant's Knife. Medigoron is an absolute quack. In the child timeline, he hypes you up on a sick project that he's working on, but says it's gonna take 5 to 6 years to make. What is this, my game dev career? In the adult timeline, he offers you a brand new sword for 200 rupees. This massive two-handed giant's knife hits like an absolute truck, easily outdamaging the master's. There's no way. There is no way you just hyped me up from childhood to adulthood, then emptied out my adult's wallet just to give me a weapon that works for 10 seconds. There is no way. Breath of the Wild durability, eat your heart out. And I know what you're thinking. Okay, yeah, it's a nice troll moment, but you still need to suffer through this crappy blade to get that epic permanent Big Goron sword, so it's still worth. Wrong! Nope, you just got Bernstein Bared, my friend. Maybe you're thinking of the breakable razor sword in Majora's Mask, which is a necessary step in order to get to the gilded sword. But despite the similar look, the giant's knife has nothing to do with the Big Goron sword. The broken blade that you need to get the Big Goron sword is a completely different item that you get from a carpenter. And that means that this breakable blade is a complete bust. Nothing prevents this expensive paperweight from being one of the biggest disappointments in the entire series. Now, there are a lot of other expensive investments in Zelda that might not feel like they're worth your time. Plenty of good picks that didn't make my list. But no matter which way you slice it, there could be only one winner of the ripoff royale. You know what's coming, it's time for tier 1. Chudley runs an impossibly snobby upscale shop, refusing to even let you enter the store without paying for a shoe shine first. Everything in his shop is impossibly unaffordable, but the biggest centerpiece by far is that sparkling magic armor, offered for the low price of 100,000 rupees. Now, if you've done the quest line, you already know where I'm going with this, but the only thing worse than seeing the impossible to obtain magic armor is actually obtaining it. Leave it to the strangely sentient boss baby Mallow to drag you into his own capitalistic scheme, pushing you around the land for thousands of rupees. Plus a discount in exchange for some manual labor, all in order to establish this mini Bezos' economic takeover of Hyrule. This buyout strangely includes the purchase of Chudley's entire personality, who will now enthusiastically sell you magic armor for the quote-unquote low price of 598 rupees. You bought it! You are smart. You bought it! At Mallow Mart. Now, at this point in the original Twilight Princess, not HD, I had that 600 rupee big wallet. So you'll imagine my surprise when I threw on my fancy new armor and... Now, the magic armor might not cost 100,000 rupees anymore, but it might as well! It gives you invincibility, but only if you are constantly feeding money into its built-in ATM machine. The EA-powered magic armor drains 2 rupees every second, plus a dozen every hit you take. It's just so immensely disappointing. It's your sick late-game flex costume, but you gotta keep putting in work for the rest of the game to make it work! And just like Wind Waker before it, of course, Twilight Princess HD made some big changes. Every wallet in that game is bigger, even your starting wallet, and they gave you that Amiibo Wolf dungeon, which can fatten your pockets up to 9,999. But in that original GameCube and Wii version, where you have to do hard work just to get to a max of 1,000 rupees, which gives you 8 minutes of this thing before you have to fill up the tank, that's just messed up. No matter what you do, this thing will keep burning your money for the rest of time. From that painful opening reveal, to the expensive journey, to the infinite drain, this, in my mind, is the most comprehensive Rupee ripoff of all time.
All you care about is money. This town deserves a better class of criminal.
You know, the funny thing is, no matter what happens with The Legend of Zelda for the rest of my life, I'm gonna be spending all my rupees on a link anyways. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video, and thank you for your patience. My upload schedule is in shambles. My sleep schedule is in shambles. But fatherhood is the best thing to ever happen to me, and I really, really enjoy just being with my son. So videos are gonna be a lot slower. I'm working on my own stuff, but as always, thank you so much for tuning in when you do have the chance to watch some of my uploads. I'll see you guys again sometime, maybe soon, maybe not, with some nonsense. I hope you enjoyed the nonsense. Those cheeks, you're looking more like a Mallow than a Link. I don't know how I feel about that.